Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a brief video introduction on Neapolitan chords. It's our next chromatic predominant harmony that we're working with outside of the secondary dominant or secondary leading tone chords, modal mixture, and now we are here at Neapolitan chords. So let's check it out in our demonstrative key of C, but here we're going to go C minor because this chord typically occurs in a minor key. It will pop up every now and then the major key, but more often than not, we're going to see this in a minor key. So let's check it out. This is going to be built off of a 2 chord in a minor key. So that 2 diminished chord. Let's go ahead and write one out here. So in our key of C minor, we have just our regular old 2 chord here. It's a diminished 2 because of A flat. So some composer, many years ago, decided, what if we took that D, we bring it down a half step, so now we'll have a major chord that is a half step above our tonic. It's kind of cool. It's going to add a lot of chromaticism, a lot of flair, moving us in tension, more importantly than not, moving us into that 5 chord, because this is a predominant function chord, so it is moving directly to 5. So let's check this out. They took that D, moved it down a half step. So now let's see what we got here. What we're going to have is a flat 2 in root position. Now, more often than not, it's not going to be written out as flat 2, flat major 2, which functionally that is what it is. But we will see it more often than not abbreviated as N for Neapolitan chord. Now, this won't occur very often in root position. It's a little weird, but there is namely a few compositions by Beethoven in his middle period where he does use this Neapolitan chord in a root position. I think in one of his string quartets, and I believe in a few of his piano sonatas. I don't have the opus numbers off the top of my head, unfortunately, but he does use these in a root position. It's kind of a weird chord that he does. I think it's from his years of studying with Haydn that he's a little witty and kind of weird. So, but more often than not, what we're going to see is this in a first inversion. So rather than being in root position, we're going to see it with, for this chord, D flat major, we're going to see it with that F in the bass. So it's going to look something like this. And when we write this out, we're going to write this out as N6, so Neapolitan 6, which is usually what you'll hear this chord referred to as a Neapolitan 6 chord. So now let's talk about how this would move typically to a 5 chord from the bass motion and from some possibilities with the top voice, the soprano motion. Erase all this. Oh, we've been blessed. He's joining. Iota. Okay, I'll get on with it. Anyway, so let's talk about this moving into a 5 chord from its typical first inversion. So right off the bat, what we're going to have is our 4th scale degree moving to our 5th. So it's going to look just like that. So we're having our F, that first inversion, having the F in the bass, moving to G, our 5th scale degree. So let's talk about the top voice, the soprano voice. Now this one, because we have flat 2 involved, kind of poses some interesting melodic problems. Namely, if we have our flat 2 in the soprano voice, and we move to B natural in our soprano voice of the 5 chord. Now, if we have that D flat descending to B natural, we have kind of a really icky diminished 3rd, which very much like an augmented 2nd is a interval that you may remember from Music Theory 1 that we kind of try to avoid. But for this chromatic predominant chord, this soprano motion going D flat to B natural is totally fine. Now, one other thing we have to talk about is the interior of these voices. What can be doubled? So, as we may recall from all of our other chromatic predominant chords that we've discussed so far, particularly in the modal mixture world, is we don't want to double chromatically altered notes more often than not. And this is not an exception. D flat, we do not want to double flat 2, which leaves us 2 other notes. The 6th, A flat here in this context, and the 4th, F in this context. I more often than not like to double F, especially if I'm moving to a 5-7. And here's why. Okay. So if I double F and I'm moving to a 5-7, that F can just stay there. A flat will typically move down to G. Flat 6 does have a strong motion down to G, and whenever we have that in an interior or exterior voice, it will typically move down to G. Talked about the bass motion, that 4th scale degree to 5th scale degree, that's super common. That's going to be kind of a set thing. And the soprano line, we can kind of mess with a little bit of our melodic rules that we've had previously, and we can have that diminished third going down. So that's a quick introduction to this chord. Really what it is, it's a half step, it's a major chord that's built on a half step above of our tonic. So let's do a little bit of identification here. So let's move this into a different key. What if we move it into A minor? What are we looking for? So let's go ahead and build a Neapolitan 6 chord in A minor. We'll do it together here. Sorry for all the voice clearing. I love fall, but fall, my sinuses do not like fall. So for an A minor, we want to build a Neapolitan 6 chord. So what we're going to do, we'll start with that 4th scale degree. So the 4th scale degree in A minor is D. So let's go ahead and put that in the bass. And remember, we're building a chord that's a major chord half step above our tonic, A minor. So what's a half step above A? Do you know? You don't know. B flat. So we're building a B flat major chord. So we have our D, our third of that chord. Now we're looking for our B flat, which is our flat 2. We'll go ahead and put that above it. And then F. So there we go. There's our Neapolitan chord. So I'll practice writing these out in as many keys as you like. Maybe go through 6 different minor keys and identifying this in its first inversion. And maybe practicing some voice leading. Just one of the examples I showed you just earlier in this video. If you have that flat 2 in the bass going down to our major 7, our leading tone for our tonic. All right, so check out the reading that's going to be attached to this video on Canvas. I'll go through a little bit more and give you some examples. This week I was talking about doing an art song primer, but then I looked at the syllabus and realized I have to get y'all onto Neapolitan chords. So this week we're just doing some Neapolitan chord stuff, and next week we're really going to delve heavily into some lieder, some art song, particularly Fanny Mendelssohn and Schubert. And we're going to see how they build texture on piano, how the voice works with the text, with some text painting, and how they incorporate these chromatic predominant harmonies to kind of do some text painting and really bring out some of the drama of these texts, which by and large are, 19th century Romantic German texts, which you wouldn't really think as being as expressive and dramatic. The Germans known so much for being expressive and dramatic, and not for sort of stoicism, but they are very dramatic texts, and this is how they'll really kind of bring out the most of those texts. So next week we'll talk about the art song primer, but this week we had to get started on the Neapolitan chords. All right, that about does it. This is a quick one. Hope everyone's doing well with their first exam. Please send me an email if you have any questions or anything is unclear, and have a great week. Bye.